virus.
Silvia Boccardi, thanks very much for joining us there from Milan. Well, Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel is outlining her vision of Europe's future ahead of taking over the rotating EU presidency in a few weeks' time. Merkel has previously said that Europe is facing its biggest crisis since the European Union was founded. Under her leadership, Merkel plans to have the bloc take more global responsibility in handling the fallout from the pandemic, especially as ties with the United States remain strained.
We must not forget that Europe is not neutral. Europe is part of the political West. If Europe wants to assert itself and its values in the world, we want to do so. We must. We must do so only by taking our destiny into our own hands more firmly than before, and by acting as reliable partners of Western values and interests.
Well, for more on this, we can join our correspondent Jessica Soltz, who's in Berlin. Jessica, Germany's taking over the reins soon of the EU at perhaps the most challenging time in its history. We've got this ambitious recovery plan now put forward. How is Angela Merkel preparing to steer both Germany and the EU through this crisis in the months ahead?
Well, yes, Angela Merkel has acknowledged that the coronavirus pandemic is the toughest crisis that the European Union has ever faced, and therefore has really ambitious plans to try and overcome it. And I think many in Europe will probably be quite glad that Angela Merkel, who's the longest running leader in Europe and known as a figure of stability in Europe, will be sort of guiding the way when Germany takes over the European Council presidency out of this crisis with ambitious plans to overcome, overturn and renew health systems in Europe, but also to spend billions of euros to help beleaguered nations. And even if this means in part mutualising European debt, something which we never would have heard the Germans agreeing to even a couple of years ago. But I think Angela Merkel has really learned some lessons over the past few years that the European Union can prove quite stable, that immediate action is needed in reactions to crisis, and also it helps to loosen the purse strings when needed. Other important topics over the next 6 months for Germany and for Europe will be climate change, asylum policy, and also foreign policy. And here I really think we will see Angela Merkel's very well-honed diplomacy skills come to the fore. Summits between the EU and Africa and EU and China will now have to be streamed online in the autumn, but Angela Merkel has very ambitious plans for these, especially when it comes to China. She wants to retain China as a competitor and prevent China's too great influence over Europe, but also wants it to remain an important partner to Europe. A difficult line to tread, but we do know that Angela Merkel is very well respected in China, so perhaps she is the best woman for the job when it comes to this.